Thanks, Luca, and welcome back to the Transcending Thought Channel podcast. So this video, I'm going to be talking about, in essence, what is meant by the word God and why that is so important to alleviating suffering from your life and finding peace. I am by no means going to tell you to believe in anything. I'm not going to talk about particularly any specific religion. I don't want you to believe in anything ever. I want you to experience this stuff. I want you to taste what this stuff actually is. And the moment you taste it, that's when the suffering begins to leave you. That's when you start to feel the abundance within you, which then begins to manifest around you. That's when your life starts to take on new meaning. It has nothing to do with a belief, it's an experience, and I'm going to guide you into that right now. The analogy I often give for this stuff, imagine that you were born in a white room. Everything is white. You've never seen any other colour, and that's how you grow up for all of your life. You never step outside of that room. And then someone comes into that room and tries to teach you about the colour blue. And they're trying to convince you that the sky outside is blue. And they're trying to describe it, they're trying to talk about it. It'd be very hard to imagine the colour blue, right? No matter how amazing of a description someone gives you, you wouldn't be able to imagine it. And that's what most people are doing when they try to describe the idea of the divine or the source of life or God, whatever word you want to use, is that they're trying to describe it in these ways. And I always say to people, I don't want to try and describe it to you. I want to take you by the hand, take you outside and say, look up and look at that blue sky. That's what blue is. I want to take you by the hand, show you this is what God is, God-realisation, spiritual realisation. I don't want it to be concepts in your mind. I want it to be a realisation for you. So what is God-realisation? What is spiritual realisation? It's the realisation of who you truly are. It's an awakening. It's an awakening into who you truly are out of who you thought you were. So for most humans, they are lost continuously in a dream. And it is the dream of constant thinking. Your mind is always talking, always thinking. There's a voice in your head always talking, have you noticed? Continuously thinking, commenting on everything around you, complaining about the world, thinking about what happened in the past, fretting about what's happening in the future, what could happen, or it's always trying to think about desires, things that's going to make me happy and whole, so I just need to try and get these things in the future and then I'll be happy. Continuous mental commentary all of the time, and that is the normal state of human beings. It is that continuous mental commentary that is blocking you from realizing who you truly are, and it is blocking God realization, spiritual realization. It's blocking the spiritual awakening. The spiritual awakening is the realization that who I am is not the voice in my head that's always talking. Spiritual realization is the realization that who I am is not my thoughts. It is not my thinking mind. It is the consciousness that is listening to it. It is the awareness that lies transcendent to the thoughts of my mind. Now that is why very intellectual philosophers, intellectual scientists, really good thinkers struggle with spiritual wisdom. Because they're so good at thinking, they are so immersed in thought, but thought can't grasp spiritual realization or spiritual wisdom. Spiritual wisdom can only be felt and realized beyond the levels of thought. So meditation, spiritual practice, mindfulness, all of these things that come to us out of the kind of Eastern traditions or out from spiritual teachers, what they're always pointing you to really is realizing who you truly are, which is the silent consciousness that lies beyond thought. It is the deep sense of I that needs no thought to know itself. It is who you are in your essence, consciousness itself, awareness itself, and that awareness that lies beyond the thoughts of your mind, the deep essence of who you are, consciousness itself, is, in essence, one with the divine. One with God, one with the source of life. So everything that you see, everything, every material thing, every form that you can see in this world, arises from that source of life that we could call God, but it's not an entity. God is not an entity separate from you in the sky. A nice word for it perhaps could be life. It could be the divine. It could be being. It could be the source of everything. These words can be more helpful to pointing you to what that actually is talking about. But it's simply the pervading life, the pervading intelligence connecting all that is. It's the invisible pervading presence connecting all that is. It's the invisible intelligence, the totality that keeps everything. It's the glue that holds everything together. There's an invisible intelligence, and it's inseparable from who you are. And so when people are trying to argue against God or arguing in favor from God, one thing that I always notice in these kind of debates and things is they never really define what they're talking about. They never really define what that word means. And most of the time when people are arguing against God, I agree with them and say, yes, I don't believe in that God either, as a long man, bearded man in the sky dictating what we should be doing. It's a personification, it's a mental image. It's not separate from you. If you want to know God, don't look out there, look within. So one of the most famous spiritual questions of all time to meditate on is the question, who am I? And the aim of that question is to help you to realize who you truly are. So, who am I? Am I my name? You're not your name. Your name was a sound that was given to you. It's a sound that you make. It's not who you are. Are you your past? I would say you're not your past. Your past is things that you went through. Are you your desires? Are you your preferences? You are none of those things. They are things that you have. They come and they go. Are you your body? I would suggest not, because when you die, your body remains. When you leave this world, your body remains for a bit, so that could never have been you. Are you your thoughts? You're not your thoughts. Your thoughts are constantly changing, one thought after another, constantly coming and going, the constant flow of thoughts. But there has to be something stable behind that constant flowing of thoughts in order for thoughts to come and go. So if you're not your mind, if you're not your body, if you're not your thoughts, then who are you? When you trace that question down to the very essence of the answer cannot be put into words, but the only words that could really fully point to it really is the words I am. So it's not I am this or I am that, it's I am. It's your own being, your own sense of I, your own sense of presence. And as you are able to recognize your sense of presence, your I, your being, your very own consciousness, the essence of who you are, that is your soul, that is your spirit, it is consciousness, and it has nothing to do with anything of this world, not really. It's untouched. It's the life that transcends this world of form. The transcendent divine spirit within. So all of spirituality and spiritual realization is about recognizing your sense of I that has nothing to do with the content of your mind. It has nothing to do with the job you're doing. It has nothing to do with the roles you're carrying out. Not to say they're not important, but they have relative importance. The true importance is knowing who you are fully, which is consciousness or awareness. The birds behind me are consciousness as well, manifesting themselves in different forms. We are all one life, expressing itself in different forms. Timeless life. So what does this have to do with the end of suffering? The majority of suffering arises from being lost in the dreams of the mind. Your mind is telling you stories continuously, and you're getting lost in them, and it pulls you into a low vibration. It pulls you into unhappiness. You start to get lost in your past, everything that went wrong, or you start struggling to try and get somewhere in order to feel whole. Because you forget that in truth, in your deepest self, you are whole already, and there's nothing that you actually need to feel whole. You are whole in your very being. underneath the constant noise of thoughts and emotions. So when you open up that 3-letter word God, when you break it open a little bit and allow its truth to be known, where it's not a closed concept, it's a more open concept to you, it's a pervading thing. It pervades all of life. It's not a separate closed entity separate from you. It's within you, you are within it. Another nice analogy I sometimes give is if you imagine yourself trying to teach a fish in the bottom of the ocean about water, the fish would say, "What are you talking about? What is water? I've never heard of this before." How would you try and get it to understand water? One of the ways you could do it is by inviting the fish to become very still and very alert and very present. And if it were to do that, it may begin to feel the water surrounding it with the gusts of the current touching its skin. But it would have to be very still because it can't see it, it's immersed in it. It can't experience it through its senses, but it might be able to subtly feel the current of the water if it can become present and still. We humans are very similar to that, which is that we are immersed in God in the same way a fish is immersed in the ocean. It surrounds us and is within us, but in order to know it, we have to become very alert and very still and very present. And when you're very fully present to the here and now, which I'm guiding you to do, become very present, you can sense a transcendent property to this universe that lies beyond simple matter, simple things, simple forms. That you can sense this divine presence, this spacious intelligence that you are immersed in. It's the field of presence, it's the field of spirit. I sometimes call it the field of infinite potential, out of which everything arises. The Buddha called it emptiness. It has no form, but yet it is that which all forms come from. Going very deep, very esoteric now, but that's it. So when you open up the word to, being or life or the divine, it becomes more accessible to knowing God, not as an entity separate from you, but as the essence of who you are, in the same way that the essence of a branch is the tree. Is a branch separate from the tree? Yes and no. It could be seen as separate, but ultimately there's just a tree, right? There's no individual branch. Not really. There's just a tree. In the same way, you are the branch on the tree of God. You may have just forgotten that. So this is your guidance into realizing what the word God means. Many people who argue against God, which I was one of them in the past, I didn't believe until I tasted it. Many people don't know what that word actually means. So my guidance to you is be open to the idea that there is more to this world that we can see. Invite that intelligence in, but ultimately, the more present you become, the more awake you are, the less you take your thoughts so seriously, the more you are able to awaken into the silent consciousness. God speaks in silence and stillness. So you have to be silent and still to hear. I hope that is helpful. Join me soon for another video, and I'll see you very soon. Take care.